Hello students, in today's video we are going to finish chapter number 2 of history which we started last week, from trade to territory. And before we start the chapter, let me quickly brush up the previous learning of the last week. In the previous videos we talked about Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar. These two battles changed the entire course of British rule in India. Prior to these battles, Britishers never thought of the idea of territorial expansion in India. But since they faced many problems in India by the Nawabs and the other Mughal rulers, that is why they decided to have full-fledged territorial control or territorial expansion, so that no troubles would come in the passage of or in the way of carrying out successful trade in India. So setting up of new administration is the last section that we need to focus on. We must know the meaning of administration. Administration means management. Management in an organization, in an institution or business. This institution can be educational institution just like your school. In your school, you can see that, you can notice that there are n number of things which fall in place so rightly. That is why the school is successfully able to cater education or able to cater to every student's need, from timetable to school uniform to book list. Everything is so managed. That is why the school successfully runs. So here, when we talk in the context of administration in India by the East India Company, they focused on the two key domains. One was judiciary and second was army. These were the backbones of Indian administration. So we'll study them in detail one by one. And first of all, we'll take up judicial system. Lord Warren Hastings became or appointed as the first Governor General of India in 1773 to 1785. This was his working time period or working span in India as Governor General. Governor General was the supreme head of the administration. This post stands for the supreme head of the administration. All the decisions were to be carried out by Warren Hastings in the name of his post. There were three presidencies. Presidencies, today you call them state, but in that time it were called presidencies. So Bengal, Bombay and Madras. These were the biggest, or you can say largest presidencies then. Each presidency was ruled by a governor, just like chief minister today rules over the state. Similarly, a governor used to rule over the presidency. And by the time Warren Hastings joined India or was appointed as the first Governor General of India, the company had already acquired huge power, enormous power in Bombay and Madras along with Bengal. And Warren Hastings introduced so many reforms in the sphere of justice, in the sphere of judiciary. We'll study them in detail one by one. So revised judicial system, Diwani Adalat and Faujdari Adalat. We have English names for these two adalats. Adalat means court, and Diwani Adalat 1, Faujdari Adalat 2. And this new judicial system was appointed in 1772. It was introduced in 1772. Each district was to have two courts. There were two courts in each district. One was criminal court, which was for Faujdari, and one was civil court, which was for Diwani. Criminal cases were handled in Faujdari Adalat and civil cases were handled in Diwani Adalat. And then there was a Supreme Court as well. We'll talk it about later on. Who were interpreting the laws for the Europeans? Since Europeans were foreigners to our land, it was very difficult for them to understand the Indian laws, because in India we had two different religions back then. Two different religions, Hinduism and Islam. And in Hinduism, Pandits were interpreting the laws for Europeans, and in Islam, as far as Islam was concerned, Maulvis were just like Pandits in their religion. So they were interpreting the laws in the civil courts for the Europeans so that they could deliver justice. Here you need to understand that since Britishers had full-fledged control over the Indian territory, and now they were taking control of the judiciary as well, because judiciary and police were the backbone. They were the backbone of Indian administration. Europeans were facing difficulties because the laws in Hinduism and laws in Islam were different, and for that matter they needed help from Hindu Pandits and Maulvis. Don't get confused who are Maulvis, because Maulvis are just like the main figure in the mosque. In the case of Hindus, Pandits are the key figure in temple, and in the case of Muslims, it is the Maulvi who occupies the key position in the mosque. So these Maulvis and Pandits were helping the Europeans in interpreting the laws so that they could understand well, and then accordingly they could deliver justice. Now, before we move on to the next section in detail, we need to understand Qazi and Mufti. These are the key words will be used in the chapter. Qazi and Mufti. Qazi was the judge who was proclaiming the final judgment, who was giving the final verdict, and Mufti is a part of that Muslim community who was responsible for expounding the law, for explaining the law that Qazi would administer. So, in very nutshell, you can say that Qazi was delivering the final judgment, and he was the final judge deciding upon the case, and whereas Mufti was helping, you can say assisting the Qazis in explaining the law. So here one important point I have skipped, which is the presiding session of criminal courts were taken by Qazi and Mufti. Criminal courts were presided over by Qazi and Mufti under the supervision of collector. So collector was a supreme body. What were the problems and what were the solutions related to the interpretation of law? Interpreting the law for European, it did not come very easily. It had its own problems, and then according to the problems the Europeans faced, what solutions were drawn out, we'll study. In 1773, a Supreme Court was established by the Regulating Act of 1773. There made an act in 1773 which was known as the Regulating Act, and with this act the idea of Supreme Court was came into being. And while the Court of Appeal, Sadar Nizamat Adalat was also set up. Pandits and Maulvis gave different interpretation of their respective laws. Pandits and Maulvis, I told you, they were interpreting the laws for their religions to the Europeans. But they had all the Pandits, all the Maulvis, they had different interpretation according to their vision, according to their ideology. They were interpreting the laws according to their understanding, because every person has a different understanding. Now these different interpretation posed a very serious challenge to deliver the justice. And here the European judges got confused how to deliver the justice, because each and every single Pandit and Maulvi was giving a very diverse interpretation. And that is how the European judges, they got confused. Hence, in 1775, 11 Pandits were asked to compile a digest of Hindu laws, and by 1778, Muslim Maulvis were also asked to compile a complete digest before the European judges. I hope you have understood this point. 11 Pandits and likewise some Maulvis were also asked to give a clear digest of Hindu laws, their clear and compiled understanding of Hindu laws, and similarly Maulvis were asked to give a clear understanding of the Islamic law before the European judges. And N.B. Halhed translated these digests into English language so that the European judges would not face any more difficulty in delivering the justice in courts. So, role of collector. The office of collector was called collectorate, and his role, his duty His job was to collect the revenue and maintain law and order with the help of judges, police, and darogas. So these were the key figure: police, judges, and darogas. In setting up of new administration, now we have come to the next section, which is the last section as well: police. One was judiciary that we have started, and now second one is police. Police is army here. Military was undoubtedly the backbone, the strength, the whole soul power of British in India. Without the military strength, they could not successfully rule over Indian subcontinent. So they were following the Mughal empire, the pattern set by the Mughal empire as far as military was concerned, and they did not require. And Mughals were, they were not wanting. They never required professionally trained military. Who? The Mughals. Their army was basically consisted of cavalry. Cavalry means the soldiers on horses, and infantry, the padal. Pedal means the on-foot soldiers. So changes introduced in 18th century. Mughal successor states started recruiting peasants. Farmers were taken into army and they were given training as professional soldiers. East India Company continued with this trend, the trend set by the Mughal rulers when it had introduced its own army. And popularly they call it a Sepoy army. Sepoy was their way, their style of pronouncing the word, the Hindi word Sipahi. So the requirement of cavalry declined. Cavalry, that means on horses, soldiers were not required in 19th century when this problem was faced by Britishers when they were fighting in Burma, Afghanistan, and Egypt, as the soldiers were equipped with matchlocks and muskets. These were the different kind of guns used by the soldiers back then. So here we can see the illustration of musket and matchlock. These are the guns. The coming of uniform military culture, and finally Britishers introduced a unique culture, a uniform military culture. Uniform means the same, no change, no variation, the same military culture. European style of training was introduced in India, which had a very strict and disciplined drill. Discipline was also introduced in the army amongst the soldier, and it created many problems like different caste group people, different religious group people were the part of these army, and the discipline and the rules set by the Britishers for army, they clashed with the religious sentiments, the caste-based sentiments of the soldiers or the sepoys. And we will witness later on in the succeeding chapters how 1857 Sepoy Mutiny came to the fore. And finally, Britishers successfully established themselves in India, and it began a very new, a very fresh chapter in the history of India. They left a wonderful legacy. We cannot count on the negative side of British rule in India. There was a positive side as well. They introduced industrialization in India. They introduced postal, railway, and on top of everything, they introduced the English language in India. I'm not saying Hindi is the language which is not internationally recognized, but if we see to the current situation, the current scenario of the international arena, I find that English language is renowned and recognized by all. It is required whenever we move out. It is required whenever we hunt for a job. It is required whenever it comes to talk to the other countries. So I must say in the end that there is a flip side of the coin, and Britishers drained a huge, humongous amount of wealth from India, but at the same time, they had given us the gifts which we cannot ignore. So, thank you. That's it in the chapter. Hope you have understood the bits and bits of the chapter. See you in the next class. Till then, stay home, stay